So good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So glad you're all here. Welcome to the final month of 2016-15. I'm already into the next year, 2015. I'm already thinking January. Welcome to the final month of 2015. I know, I cannot believe that we're already in December. This has just been, yeah, I know. Christmas is over. How was it? You ever good? Okay, yeah, all right. Oh, well, welcome. Thanksgiving, I know.
Christmas isn't over yet.
But welcome to the holidays, because it has begun, right? Welcome to the month that can bring out great joy and connection for a lot of people. And what?
And big belly.
Okay. Well, and it can also, this month can also be a month that brings out a little stress, maybe, a little overachievement anxiety there, and for some it can even be a little depressing. I know that this can be a tough month for some people. But wherever you are on this holiday continuum, everyone is welcome here this month. And it will stay this month. I won't push into next year just yet. And it's my hope and prayer that you will be nurtured and nourished by your experience here this month. And in the month of December, we celebrate the birth of Jesus. Now, in Religious Science or the Centers for Spiritual Living, we don't exclusively celebrate the birth of the man, but rather we expand our celebration to the birth of the cosmic Christ in all of us. When we use the man as our master teacher, because he's the one that got it right first, right? Stephen Mitchell in his book, The Gospel According to Jesus, wrote, "We can't begin to see who Jesus was until we remove the layers of interpretation which the centuries have interposed between us and him, and which obscure his true face like coat after coat of lacquer upon the vibrant colors of a masterpiece. The portrait of Jesus that emerges from the authentic passages in the Gospels is of a man who has emptied himself of the mental trappings and spiritual baggage that separated him from the true life of spirit. His trust in God was as natural as breathing, and in God's presence, he himself was fully present. In his very language, he reflected God's deep love for everything that is earthly, for the sick and the despised, for the morally admirable as well as the repugnant, for the weeds as well as the flowers, for the lions as well as the lambs. He taught that God's compassion embraces all people. There are no preconditions for it, nothing we need to do first, nothing we have to believe. When we are ready to receive it, it is there. And the more we live in its presence, the more effortlessly it flows through us." Isn't that beautiful? I love that. And we're going to deepen into some of its meaning this month as we celebrate what it means to live from a place of cosmic or Christ consciousness. And today, we are putting on the Christ. But before we do, I want to share with you a story. Now, it may not be an entirely factual story. According to Snopes, it is not, and I'm a great Snopes person. It annoys me to no end when I read something on Facebook that somebody is sharing with the world as true, and it is not. So I check these things out a lot. But the story is such a good one, and it really applies to what I'm talking about this morning. So we're going to call it a parable, which is the way that they used storytelling a lot in the Bible to get a story across. They weren't necessarily true, but they made a good point. So it is told that a seminary professor was vacationing with his wife in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I think that's a hot destination spot, isn't it, for vacationing? I don't know. Anyway, one morning, they were eating breakfast at a little restaurant, hoping to enjoy a quiet family meal. And while they were waiting for their food, they noticed a distinguished-looking white-haired man moving from table to table, and he was visiting with the guests. The professor leaned over and whispered to his wife, "I hope he doesn't come over here." But sure enough, the man did come over to their table. "Where are you folks from?" he asked in a friendly voice. "Oklahoma," they answered. "Great to have you here in Tennessee," the stranger said. "What do you do for a living?" "I teach at a seminary," he replied. "Oh, so you teach preachers how to preach, do you? Well, I've got a really great story for you." And with that, the gentleman pulled up a chair and sat down at the table with the couple. The professor groaned and thought, "Oh, great, just what I need, another preacher story." The man started, "See that mountain over there?" As he pointed out the window at the mountain in the background. Not far from the base of that mountain, there was a boy born there to an unwed mother. He had a hard time growing up because every place he went, he was always asked the same question. "Hey boy, who's your daddy?" Whether he was at school or at the grocery store or the drugstore, people would ask him the same question. "Who's your daddy?" He would hide at recess and lunchtime from the other students. He would avoid going into stores because not being able to answer that question really hurt him badly. When he was about 12 years old, a new preacher came to the church. The little boy would always go in late and slip out early to avoid hearing the question, "Who's your daddy?" from the new preacher. But one day, the new preacher said the benediction so fast that the little boy got caught up and had to walk out with the crowd. Just about the time he got to the back door, the new preacher, not knowing anything about him, put his hand on his shoulder and asked him, "Son, who's your daddy?" He could feel the eyes of those around him looking at him. Now everyone would finally know the answer to the question, "Who is your daddy?" This preacher, this new preacher, he sensed something though. He sensed the situation around him, and tapping into his intuition, he said to the scared little boy, "Wait a minute. I know who you are. I see the family resemblance now. You are a child of God." With that, he patted the boy on his shoulder and said, "Boy, you've got a great inheritance. Go and claim it." With that, the boy smiled and walked out the door, a changed person, and he was never the same again. From then on, when anybody asked him, "Who's your daddy?" he'd just tell them, "I'm a child of God." The distinguished gentleman got up from the table and said, "Isn't that a great story?" The professor responded that it really was a great story, and then he thought he would actually share it with his seminary students. As the man turned to leave, he said, "You know, if that new preacher hadn't told me that I was one of God's children, I might not have amounted to anything." And he walked away. The seminary professor and his wife were stunned. He called the waitress over and asked her, "Do you know who that man was who was sitting at our table?" The waitress grinned and said, "Of course, hon. Everybody knows him. That's Ben Hooper. He's the former governor of Tennessee." And great story. Again, in the words of Stephen Mitchell in his book, The Gospel According to Jesus, God's compassion embraces all people. There are no preconditions for it. Nothing we need to do first, nothing we have to believe. When we are ready to receive it, it is there. And the more we live in its presence, the more effortlessly it flows through us. It's not supposed to be hard. It isn't. We're the ones that make it hard. We don't have to do or be anything in order to receive God's love and compassion. There are no preconditions for it. It is bestowed on all of us, not just you and you and you, but all of us. When we're ready to receive it, it is there. This is such an important thing to remember. When you are ready to receive it, it is there. So who's got to get ready for this? Who's got to do the work? We're the ones that have to do the work. We have to move. God's not going anywhere. God's right where God is and always has been. We have to move closer to God. So, are you all familiar with the James Dillett Freeman's poem, "I Am There"? Have you heard that poem? Anybody? I've read it often, but for me, it truly has a lot of power that it never loses. And would y'all like to hear it? Well, we're going to hear it, but I'm going to do it in a little bit because I think it's a great way to close. So hold on to that. But for now, the story I have for you now is in the New Testament, and it's about Zacchaeus and how he's a great example of when we are ready to receive it, it is there. So Zacchaeus was a materially centered person, obscured from seeing the truth. He was a tax collector, and perhaps, just perhaps, he took advantage of people for his own gain. But he was ready for a change. Life wasn't working for him like he wanted, and something in him was waking up. He knew that there was more. He'd heard about this person named Jesus. And he knew that he was walking the land and changing people's lives. And something in him said he needed to see him. So when Jesus came into town, he was excited and joined the crowds to listen to him and to see him. Except there was a bit of a problem for Zacchaeus. Does anybody know what the problem that he had was? He was short. He was very short. He was so short that he couldn't see a thing, and he probably couldn't hear very much either. He was completely lost in the crowd. But he was determined to see Jesus, so he decided to run ahead of the crowd, and he climbed a sycamore tree so that he could see above the crowd when Jesus passed by. And when Jesus did pass by the tree, he sensed something which caused him to look up. And there he saw a man sitting in the tree, and he immediately knew that this man was ready to receive something new in his life. And so he said, "Zacchaeus, make haste, come down, for today I must abide in thy house." This brings to mind the beautiful passage, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man will open up, I will come in and sup with him." So no matter where you are in consciousness, all you have to do is knock or climb a tree, whichever the case may be, right? Meaning to be willing to receive the love of God, and you will find a new experience. That's all we need to do. Zacchaeus was very materially wealthy. He had all that he could possibly want, but he knew that he had not attained all that he could be. So he made a new commitment with life. He took a look at himself from a higher level of consciousness, and he caught a vision of his Christ self. Christ means the illumined one. It's not actually the last name of Jesus, right? It means the illumined one. He caught that of himself. And it started with his willingness to receive, to say yes to the universe. So are you, this morning, willing to receive and say yes to the love of God?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I hope so. And the more we are willing to not only receive, but then to live in its presence, to put on the Christ, the more effortlessly it flows through us. In The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes writes, "It was impossible for Jesus not to have become the Christ. As the human gave way to the divine, as the man gave way to God, as the flesh gave way to spirit, as the will of division gave way to the will of unity, Jesus the man became the living embodiment of the Christ." On that same page, Holmes wrote, "As the human gives way to the divine, in all people, they become the Christ." It is our spiritual mandate to let our humanness give way to our divinity so that we may too become the Christ. It is our spiritual mandate to live in the presence of God's love so it can effortlessly flow through us. And it is the perfect time of year for us to be reminded of this. And Jesus gave us the formula of how to do this when he said, "You must be born anew." He meant that we must be reborn to the awareness of the Christ potential within us, the light of God within us, so that it may spring forth into expression and illuminate our lives. We must live in his presence so it can flow through us. And so, this is the consciousness I invite you to bring to the table this month. When you see the lights on the houses and on the Christmas trees, don't just look at them and marvel at how beautiful they are. Know that they represent the light within you. When you fill your home with Christmas candles, whether they're real ones or maybe the ones you turn on, don't just look about at the dramatic effect that they have on the room and the great mood that they set, but know that they represent the light within. And in all that you do, be joyous. Know that your joy is infectious and it spreads, reaching out like light. And as you do your holiday shopping, know that it's not the dollar value on the gift, or really even the gift itself, but the fact that the gift is a physical representation of your light. And it's your light that you are sharing with those that you care about and love. And I particularly like this idea. When you go to holiday parties or family gatherings, yes, enjoy the wonderful food in moderation. No big bellies here, right? But use your holiday feast to symbolize the feast, the feast of the pure substance of spirit, which is ever accessible to you. It is said that the banquet has already been laid out. It's our choice to step up to the banquet table and take. It's already given. To paraphrase the meaning of the meal, according to the Metaphysical Bible that was written by Charles Fillmore, he said, "The feast of the pure substance of spirit is ever accessible to the individual. Before one can partake fully of the substance of spirit, there must be a willingness to turn the attention to the ideas of spirit to the exclusion of all outer attractions." There's the key right there. Having turned our attention to the invisible substance, we move upon it with our thoughts and words of truth, in faith believing that our words are instantly filled full in spirit. Use the trappings of this holiday season to remind you to put on the Christ, the consciousness of the cosmic Christ, and let it flow through, around, and as you. And nothing speaks more beautifully to putting on the Christ consciousness than does the poem I was talking about by James Dillett Freeman. And it's titled, "I Am There." So we're going to use this as our closing prayer this morning. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not understand my works. I am not strange visions, I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness beyond self can you know me as I am, and then but as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am here, yet I hear, yet I answer. When you need me, I am there. Even if you deny me, I am there. Even when you feel most alone, I am there. Even in your fears, I am there. Even in your pain, I am there. I am there when you pray and when you do not pray. I am in you and you are in me. Only in your mind can you feel separate from me. For only in your mind are the mists of yours and mine. Yet only with your mind can you know me and experience me. Empty your heart of empty fears. When you get yourself out of the way, I am there. You can of yourself do nothing, but I can do all. And I am in all. Though you may not see the good, good is there, for I am there. I am there because I have to be, because I am. Only in me does the world have meaning. Only out of me does the world take form. Only because of me does the world go forward. I am the law on which the movement of the stars and the growth of living cells are founded. I am the love that is the law's fulfilling. I am assurance. I am peace. I am oneness. I am the law that you can live by. I am the love that you can cling to. I am your assurance. I am your peace. I am one with you. I am. Though you fail to find me, I do not fail you. Though your faith in me is unsure, my faith in you never wavers. Because I know you, because I love you. Beloved, I am there. And so it is.
So it is.